Hello, hello. Hello, my pretties. How are you today? Sorry to keep you guys waiting. It doesn't look like I have anybody waiting right here, but now, okay, I just needed my effing eyeglasses cleaner. Damn, if it's not one thing, it's another. You know how I always say, if these stupid, ridiculous things are my biggest problems today, then how lucky am I? Like putting my glasses in the other room, and I'm like, well, I can't exactly read the book without the glasses too well. I could do it for a minute, but that would be silly. And how's my sound? I feel like there's something off. Somebody's here. Can you tell me if you can hear me okay? I think I'm all ready to go. Are you ready to go? Man, there's so much crazy going on in the world. When I logged off yesterday, the last thing I did was played a brand new Occupy Democrats video for you guys. That is the only thing that I have seen that said, and I've searched and searched, but it's the only thing. I still trust them, but I'm just curious. It said that the House went into a recess 8 hours after it reopened. And so, after they swore in Adelita Grijalva, I don't know if that's true and accurate because I haven't been able to find any other article or anything talking about it. It wouldn't surprise me. It would disgust me. But if it is true, if it is, then I think it's only until next week. I think he just said go home for the rest of the week. I think that's what it was. I don't think he shut it down. He just said, you don't need to hang out here. You can come back later, which is pretty stupid in my opinion. Man, tomorrow is Friday, right? No, today's Friday. Tomorrow's Saturday. Let me just get started with the book because I am excited to be reading it to you guys. I'm excited to be getting a lot of progress underway, but it is pretty slow and painstaking, is it not? But I think I got to page 196. Chapter 21, A Person of Interest. So let's just get rolling. We'll see how this goes. 2 years before, everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for the tube of you. It's an infotainment platform. I'm really aiming towards the educational piece, reading out of the book, but injecting my own ideas everywhere that I can, and even switching up some of the verbiage so that I can be within the fair use parameters. I want to encourage everybody to buy the book. I really think that this book could be like the next wave of Me Too that could save our democracy. Anna Bees, how are you, my dear? Can you hear me okay? I feel like I can't hear myself today for some reason. Like the earphones are acting like earplugs. But there was some loud machinery noises outside too that I was trying to wait until they were gone. Doing good, and you sound good. Okay, Anna Bees, I'm so excited because I think that you're probably familiar with the thing that I've been looking for months. No, weeks. This book has only been out for 1 month and 1 week, I think. And I read it right away, and then I couldn't find this one part. And it's where I want to try to read up to today. But I'm going to tell you what it is too, because it's so important. So we're on chapter 21. We're going to try to read through chapter 25 on page 244. I'm just going to read what it says. Evidence existed indicating that E had paid my father a sum of money way back in 2000. I will reread that. Evidence existed indicating that E paid my father money way back in 2000. So she waits until like the last, it's very close to the end of the book, that far into it, before she says that, which I found alarming. I was annoyed because I'd been suspecting it since before I started the book. And then to be reading through most of the book before getting that confirmation, I really felt like it was a rug pull. But I immediately thought, well, that's probably intentional on her and her editor's part to give you the same sense of a rug pull that her whole effing life was, right, Annabise? That is so insane. We had a feeling that was what happened. Well, and I've said it again and again. Virginia has so much insight and she knew so much and she's brilliant, but there's a lot that she didn't know because she's only one person. And I figured that her dad and T and E and Ron Eppinger had all coordinated things at some points in time. It just made sense the more I learned. I didn't think that until I started learning certain things, but I feel like I've gotten such a good handle on the big picture. And the thing that I keep saying again and again, the age differences, we'll get into some of that today too. There's some real clear indication. I'll read it to you so you don't have to wait. Well, right here, this is good. I had already seen shady characters hanging around our house, and that I believed E had sent them to intimidate me into staying silent. Okay. This is like back in 2011. There were already shady characters being sent to loiter in her neighborhood and intimidate her into staying silent. So when she suddenly, allegedly, takes her own life earlier this year, I don't believe that. I just don't believe that. But what was the other thing I wanted to share right here? And we'll get to this too. The thing with the fuzzy math Annabise. So she's addressing in the book how sometimes things are inaccurate because she remembers differently, or maybe because she was threatened, or both. Probably both, right? So here it says, I'd been recruited by G from Mar-a-Lago in 1998. It says that right here. Been recruited by Maxwell from Mar-a-Lago in 1998. She would have been 14. But then it right there in the same sentence, it says when I was 15 years old, because I think she was pressured all along to be fuzzy with her math. Then she says, I was mistaken about my age. Later, employment records obtained by other attorneys would show I'd began working at the spa 1 year later in 1990. So why does our president have it on his Mar-a-Lago tax records, employment records, that she started in 1999? Why is it that the official narrative is the year 2000, but then she says that it was 1998? I think it was 1998, and that um, he had the records revised to make it 1999. But now they say 2000. It's sus AF. Um, that is so insane. We had a feeling that was what happened. And who would think that your own dad would sell you? Anna Bees, I think that my dad would have done the exact same thing. I think he was just lacking a T and an E and a Eppinger. I think he would have done the exact same thing. Granny's back, yay! I'm pretty sure of it. I hate to say that, but it's hard to wrap your mind around, except when, for me, it's really easy because I've thought that um, I've thought that most of my life. I think that's why we lived in Beverly Hills and Malibu, was that he was looking for some T and E and Eppinger types. That's one of the reasons, anyway. I don't believe she took her own life. Hi, Annie. Yeah, I'm just going to say, in my opinion, she absolutely did not. Absolutely did not. How are you today, Annie? And I didn't ask how you were, Anna Bees, did I? Oh, I did. You said doing good, and you sound good. All right. Well, without further ado, A Person of Interest, Chapter 21. 2 years before E and G tracked me down in Australia, the stepmother of a 14-year-old girl had called the Palm Beach Police Department and said she suspected that her child had been molested by a wealthy Palm Beach resident. It was March 14, 2005. And across the world, I, oblivious to any goings-ons in Florida, was about to get pregnant with Alex. So 2005. That's her first kid. I'm pretty positive that Alex is the oldest, and then Tyler. And they're just like 1 year apart. And then the youngest one is 3 years younger. So when she was 15, when her mother died earlier this year, the brothers would have been 18 and 19. So that doesn't make sense. There wouldn't have been a custody issue with her 19-year-old, right? I think she does mess with the age because she was threatened. She obviously lies about little T. Exactly. And everybody else around her lies about him too. There are a few people, finally, that are calling that out online, and I'm very grateful. I think there'll be more and more. I kind of feel like all of this crazy conspiracy theory that I've been believing is panning out, and that people are starting to talk about things that I've been questioning for months. So for that, I'm grateful, and sorry that I might sound really funny with the wax on my teeth. It is gross, telling you. The victims had been open with me, had drunk dads teaching them how to be a good wife, and they can't get pregnant. The back door was used at Playboy Mansion to avoid pregnant. Holy crap. Well, that's what they're alluding to then, I bet you, in the South Park with Satan's Butt Baby. I bet that's exactly what they're alluding to. Holy effing crap. That makes sense. And that South Park is just getting more and more brilliant. They're kind of leading the pack with all this, with the revolution. The revolution will not be televised except in South Park cartoon. One of my Cabo friends had internal damage from the rear door grate at the mansion. Cabo has a variety of people fleeing U.S. That is awful. Tell them I'm sorry if you're still in contact with them. But yeah, I think there's also the goal of being even more humiliating than front door grape. I think that's another reason why that is done is just to really stick it to somebody. I mean, sorry for the pun, no pun intended, but there it is. And trigger warning. Sorry, I didn't say that first. Annie, I always thought it was crazy what was going on at the Playboy Mansion. And yes, always tall girls. Huh. My friend in those exposing Playboy movies. Oh, what are they called? I want to see that. I'm not familiar with that. Um, the concerned women The concerned woman told police she'd learned about the incident from another mother who overheard a girl tell a friend that a 45-year-old man had paid her to have Rex with him. The stepmother said she didn't know the name of the man, but she thought she knew the date about 5 weeks earlier. Today, reading the 87-page incident report filed by the officers who investigated the first allegations, I recognized so many echoes from my own life. Echo number one was that the girl appeared to have been recruited by an older female, a community college student who picked up the 14-year-old in her truck and drove her to the man's mansion. Supposedly, the man has a lot of money and often has young girls come over to his house, the report says. The man starts with a massage. If he likes them, he keeps them around and does more. Thinking about what more meant gave me echo number two. The report says the incident in question led to the girls getting into a fight at school with a classmate who accused her of being a prostitute. Sometime after that, the report says the girl was involuntarily admitted into a juvenile education facility because of disciplinary problems that recently escalated. There was echo number three. Soon, so many more echoes emerged that I stopped counting. Um, I don't remember. One is more recent, if released. She flew to Canada to make it. Facebook turned me off, so I lost contact with 12 years of friends. Collect phone numbers. I didn't. Oh, I cut off Facebook a few years ago. I'm so glad I did. Um, yeah. Fuck Zuck, right? I think I gave it up right around the time Meta was coming in. I was just like, is nothing never enough for these billionaires? Give me an effing break. Um, when the police interviewed the girl, she said the student who'd recruited her was named Haley Robeson. She said that Robson told her on the way to the man's house that if the man asked her age, she should say she was 18. The girl recalled that the house they went to, 2 stories and painted pink, was on a dead end street. When they arrived at the gate, the incident report says the man was not there, but the girl and Robeson were welcomed into the kitchen by an assistant who said the man would return soon. The girls were offered something to drink. I wonder if it was spiked. When the man did return, the 14-year-old said he introduced himself as Jeff. The girl recalled that Jeff had a long face and bushy eyebrows with graying hair. At this point in the interview, the incident report notes the girl became upset and started crying. The girl said a young blonde woman she believed to be Jeff's assistant took her upstairs. She recalled walking up a flight of stairs lined with photographs to a room. with a massage table at its center, the report says. There was a mural of a naked female in the room, as well as several nude photographs of women on a shelf. The assistant told the girl Jeff would be there in a second, and she left. Soon, Jeff walked in wearing only a towel and told the girl to take off her clothes. He got just more and more emboldened. Um, let's see. I travel so much easier to keep up with friends. Karen Reed trial got all my Facebook permanently shut. Power exercise by Morrissey, in my opinion. I should F Facebook, but I keep it because I have so much family on there. I don't want to lose touch with them, but I hardly go in there. Yeah, I mean, as long as you can manage it. I'm just the way I am with YouTube. I was like that with Facebook, like I'm just completely addicted. So that's the nature of my personality. So I just have to be careful what I get addicted to or what I stay addicted to. Like I'm addicted to water. I'm addicted to you guys. I'm addicted to my yoga and my dogs and the rest. Um, let's see. Now I'm addicted to reading, which is great. That's what I was shooting for. Oh, so gross. Where was I? Take off her clothes. Jeff was stern when he told the girl to undress, she recalled. She didn't know what to do because she was there alone with him. Such a disadvantage. I mean, every young girl knows that a 45-year-old man could kill her like that. She took off her shirt, she said, but left her bra on. Jeff told her to take off everything. She took off her pants, but left her thong underwear on. Jeff dropped his towel then, exposing himself, and got on the massage table face down. He told the girl to get on top of him, straddling his body, and to start massaging. Her exposed buttocks were touching Jay's bare buttocks. Jay was specific in his instruction to her, and trigger warning, right? This is very explicit. Water in large mugs, my addiction. Yes, and with ice. Do you put ice in it, Annie? I stay off TikTok because if I go in, I will be there all day. That's hilarious, but I get it. Yeah, I'm not on anything. The only thing I'm on is YouTube. Seriously. That's it. Because I just can't handle anything else. But you know me, I'm all over YouTube. I mean, I'm on Google too, right? YouTube and Google. That's it. And I guess. Um, yes, FB to keep up with family, even just before a holiday to have convo topics. Yeah, it's a good idea. It definitely helps with the social life, which I feel like I have enough of a social life just with having such a big family and good neighbors and everything. Let's see. Um, Jeff was specific in his instruction to her on how to massage, telling her to go clockwise, the report says. At some point, Jeff flipped over and masturbated. He told the girl she had a really hot body. Later, Jeff used a purple vibrator to massage the girl's private parts. Then he went to the bathroom where she believed he masturbated again. When he returned, he gave her $300. Before she left the house, he asked her to leave her phone number. 2 days after interviewing the 14-year-old victim, police officer showed her a photograph of J.E. in a photo lineup. She immediately recognized him as Jeff. The Palm Beach police initiated undercover surveillance on 358 El Brillo Way and began secretly collecting and analyzing the contents of the trash cans. Among the items police would eventually find in E's garbage, carbon copies of handwritten phone messages that chronicled a steady stream of girls who'd been coming to work at the house. A receipt for a 2005 Amazon purchase of 3 books about S&M, one being called S&M 101, A Realistic Introduction, Slavecraft Roadmaps for Erotic Servitude Principles, Skills and Tools, and Training with Miss Abernathy, a workbook for erotic slaves and their owners. Their owners. See, I mean, he felt like he owned these people, didn't he? And that's what Dear Leader thinks too. He thinks he owns the whole freaking world, as well as numerous sex toys, including a purple vibrator that looked identical to the one the 14-year-old girl told the police Epstein used on her. So I think they found the receipt for that. Over the next 13 months, investigators tracked down more than 30 victims. So this is leading up to what devolved then into the sweetheart deal. This is leading up to it. This is what started it and what got it going. And then it died, right? And it's still not dead. It's like the zombie case because of Tenacious D and his inability to just surrender and say enough is enough. I resign. I'll take responsibility for what I've done. Never, ever, ever. Over the next 13 months, investigators tracked down more than 30 victims. Each one seemed to lead them to at least one more and interviewed them. The incident report obscures their names, but not their ages. Redacted also stated she was 16 years old when she first went to E's house. During a sworn taped statement, Redacted said she met J.E. over a year ago. She was 16 years of age. Redacted advised that when she was 15 or 16, she was taken to J.E.'s house. An employee said E routinely received 2 or 3 massages a day from different girls. I'm sorry, this is really annoying. The wax on my bottom teeth is just a little too thick. It's harder to talk than normal. So let me try to flatten it out a little. My 30 to 40 millionaire I knew not to tattle on. They will delete you to keep their money, even though I helped him build 2 million at start of relationship. 10 years later. Yeah, totally. Sorry, I'm not flipping you off. I'm really not, but I was, wasn't I? I take it back. I didn't mean it. It's too funny. I didn't even notice until I did. As soon as I noticed, I'm like, oh crap, what am I doing? It just seems like the middle finger is better for that job of flattening that. So I'll do it like this, and then it's not giving you the bird. I think Donnie likes to give people the bird and pretend he doesn't notice that he's doing it. And Erica Kirk does that too. It's like, what? No, I was just holding my hand like that. I didn't realize it. Because if you really didn't realize it, then you might bring it up later and mention it, right? And say, oh, I'm sorry, that was inadvertent. Okay, I think I just about got it. At least I thought I was doing good by having the wax on my teeth before we started. But because I wasn't talking, I couldn't tell that I had just made it like too tall. Yeah, it's getting much better. And reading your guys' comments, just not out loud. And he was the safest man I lived with. Just knew, do not mess with him. Isn't that sad that that was the safest man you lived with? I used to have tastes like that in men too. Go figure with my father who raised me. Um, when I met my husband, it was love at first sight, except that I was afraid he was too nice. Like I knew that like that's not my type. I like the bad boy type. Okay. I think we're good to go. We'll try it anyway. Robert, that guy had always remained in my life. I am his caregiver if ever needed. He gives me a few hundred when we meet for lunch when I go to California. Um, okay, it looks like that comment just got printed twice. Um, an employee said he routinely received 2 or 3 massages a day from different girls. Asked how old the masseuses appeared to be, the employee said he felt they were very young. The man recounted how they ate tons of cereal and drank milk all the time, like his own daughter, who's in high school. Almost every girl interviewed told a similar story. On her first meeting with E, and sorry to keep playing with my teeth, but I'm just making it better. Um, on her first meeting with E, he'd say that he only wanted her to do things she was comfortable with, but over time, if a girl returned to the house, E would push her to go further and further sexually. First, he'd ask for his nipples to be pinched. What a whack job. Ah, hard. Why not just put the clothespins right on them? Then he'd masturbate and he'd try to fondle them and use sex toys on them. The incident report says he would pay them more if they brought their friends to him. He would pay them more to have intercourse with him and sometimes would force girls to have sex against their will. That's called grape. That is definitely called grape. Excuse me. And he would pay them more to participate in threesomes with him and an assistant. Nadia Marcinkova, the girl I'd been forced to train before I left for Thailand. A particular line in one of the victim interviews jumps out at me. The echo too loud to ignore, and the threats still terrifying even after all these years. E had told at least one girl that she could not tell anyone what happened at the house or bad things would happen. On October 20th, 05, police executed a search warrant at his Palm Beach mansion, right under the noses of a New York decorator and architect who were there planning a reservation. Police officers noted that it appeared E knew they were coming. It seemed his computers had been removed from the desks. Still, the incident report says officers seized the photographs of naked females that so many of the girl victims had described, as well as the incriminating message pads that included notes to E, like this one, written after a call from his friend Jean-Luc Brunel. He has a teacher for you to learn how to speak Russian. She is 2 times 8, in other words, 16. She is 2 times 8 years old, not blonde. Lessons are free, and you can have first one today if you call. Officers also seized a high school transcript of one of the alleged victims. Like, why did they have the transcript of this victim? Her school transcript. Maybe because she got in trouble at school. I bet I bet he was coordinating with the people that owned the school too. Like that's like he did that with some of the colleges and universities and the art institute. He would have contacts and he would donate the money, and he would just hang out and then be a mentor to the students. So yeah, I bet that he had the high school transcript because the girl was probably in trouble, and that's she probably got referred to him basically, because that's bizarre. I'm so glad I caught that. I kind of previewed the next section because I was looking for those things that I read to you. And so I was like speed reading through to see what was here, which was good because then I can catch things more better. Officer sees a high school transcript of one of the alleged victims. What the F was he doing with her high school transcript? A bottle of peach flavored joy jelly lubricant, two hidden cameras placed inside clocks, and several, trigger warning, penis and vajayjay shaped soaps, which were displayed prominently in the bathrooms. In February '06, investigators requested a grand jury session in which all the girls had been interviewed would be called to testify. The goal to seek an indictment against E, but the incident report indicates that there were forces protecting E. Okay, this is February '06. This is leading up to the sweetheart deal. Forces protecting E from being brought to justice. The report notes that a lawyer for E met with the state attorney's office and provided information about the main victims, including their MySpace profiles, where some mentioned alcohol and marijuana use. Afterward, the grand jury was postponed. Translation: a smear campaign was underway. I think I had something these men wanted. Two wanted me for car, one for my house. House guy inherited his now deceased girlfriend's. Ooh, what did she do? Fall down a flight of stairs or something? Eerie. She had kids, but they are sad he got the house. Well, yeah, that's crazy. Smear campaign underway. So was a campaign of intimidation. The incident report notes that the father of the original victim stated that there had been a private investigator at his house photographing his family and chasing visitors who come to the house. The father of the original victim, private investigator at his house photographing the family and visitors who came to the house. Detective Joseph Ricari, who was then leading the investigation, soon reported that another victim told him she was personally contacted through a source that has maintained contact with E. The source assured the victim she would receive monetary compensation for her assistance in not cooperating with law enforcement. The victim stated she was told those who help him will be compensated and those who hurt him will be dealt with. Um, our president used that phrase recently. I think he was talking about the Republicans that didn't go along with the plan would be dealt with. Or was it other citizens of the country that he was going to have be dealt with? Like mobster talk. Okay. A grand jury was rescheduled to convene over 3 days in April '06, and Detective Ricari served each victim with a subpoena. But on the eve of their proceedings, not a single victim had been told when or where to appear. Outraged, Ricari went to the state attorney's office to confront the two prosecutors assigned to the case. In the incident report, he states, that one of them said that E had been offered a deal. This is just '06. I thought that didn't come till '08. Let's see. Um, Plead guilty to one count of aggravated assault with intent to commit a felony and receive 5 years probation, no jail time. E would have to submit to psychiatric sexual evaluation and no supervised visits with minors, the report says. While Ricari was pregnant, the prosecutor answered a phone call from one of E's lawyers who said his client would accept the deal. E's lawyer then requested that the grand jury be canceled. Ricari couldn't believe what he was hearing. I explained my disapproval of the deal and not being consulted prior to the deal being offered, the detective wrote in the incident report. Still later that day, someone in the state attorney's office called Ricari, he wrote, to officially notify me of the cancellation of the grand jury. He requested I contact the victims that had been served to appear to notify them of the cancellation. Ricari told that person he wouldn't do any such thing since the state attorney's office had made the decision. He said someone there could handle contacting the victims. Ricari was PO'd. The incident report makes that clear. On May 1st, '06, in apparent defiance of the prosecutors, he prepared 3 arrest warrant requests and submitted them to the Crimes Against Children unit of the state attorney's office. The one for E sought a warrant for 4 counts of unlawful sexual activity with certain minors and 1 count of lewd and lascivious molestation. You guys probably heard about that email that Jiz wrote to G and E were writing back and forth about this, which one to choose. And I think G said, I would go with lewd and lascivious. Like, so cute. Speaking of so cute, I put a link in the description of yesterday's video to the funniest Daily Show skit that Josh Johnson did, where he's talking about all these emails and how they're emailing discreetly about their sex crimes. Like, hey, do you want to go do some sex crimes this weekend? And it's just really funny. So check it out. It's good to laugh. This stuff is so dark and so dreary. It's really good, I think, to be able to laugh it off a little bit here and there. All right. I don't think I mentioned that yesterday. I'll try to link it up in the description here too of today's video for anybody that's interested. You know how much I love Josh Johnson. I even have a picture of myself with him because I'm just so lucky, so lucky. Where was I? The lascivious molestation. The one for E's assistant, Sarah Kellen, sought that she be charged with 4 counts of principal in the first degree unlawful sexual activity with certain minors and 1 count of principal in the first degree lewd and lascivious molestation. The 3rd arrest warrant request was for Haley Robeson. It sought her arrest for lewd and lascivious acts on a victim under 16 years old. In July '06, little E was arrested on only 2 state felony charges, procuring a minor for prostitution and solicitation of a prostitute. And yeah, it's statutory. Like, how do they skip that part? He was allowed to, it is Florida after all, freaking run by Florida man, right? Ooh, and our president's a Florida man. Oh no. Oh dear. Florida man. Okay, the state attorney, he was allowed to post a $3,000 bond and go home. The state attorney, Barry Krischer, had finally convened a Palm Beach County grand jury, but presented evidence from just 2 victims out of like 30, right? The grand jury returned a single charge of felony solicitation of prostitution, to which he pleaded not guilty in August '06. That was the last straw for Ricari's boss, Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder. Disgusted with the way Krischer and his prosecutors had botched the case, Ryder took his department's findings to the FBI. Unfortunately, they didn't give a flying F either. I knew exactly none of this in '07 when E and G called me out of the blue. I'd had just 5 years away from them and I wasn't done recovering. Soon, though, my family and I would be swept into their maelstrom yet again. You're so funny, Jazz. Oh, what was I funny about? So I got to stay caught up. Okay. During the first few months, okay, this is chapter 22. He's a Tyler. During the first few months of Alex's life, yeah, Alex is the oldest. Tyler's next. I found my footing as a mother. I saw my job as keeping Alex healthy and safe in our well protected den. And with every passing day, I got more confident that I was up to the task. But after G and E's back to back intrusion, that confidence crumbled. The thought of the two of them tracking my family's location kept me up at night. Just like that, my former abusers had stolen my peace of mind. With Robbie away at work each day, I stopped leaving Alex alone even for a minute. When he napped, I sat in the rocking chair in his room, keeping watch. Robbie was worried too, not only about the danger E and Maxwell posed, but also about my fragile psyche. He made the decision that would stay with his parents in Sydney until our second child was born. We all had to cram into one of Nina and Frank's guest bedrooms, but we made it work. The next few months were a blur. Robbie organized a surprise baby shower, and I got started on a second baby book, pasting in ultrasound photos with the obligatory bikini pic of me, the beaming, rotund mother to be. She was so skinny, I can't imagine her being very rotund when she was young. I mean, she got larger as she got older. But she was such a skinny kid and teenager. Let's see. Let me not knock everything down. But at least I didn't like flash you guys. I'm wearing pants today, okay? That was too effing funny. I thought with it being such a long dress, but like I said, thank God I had the shorts on. But today I have pants on for that very reason, because yeah, I like to get up to sit up higher, Indian style. But now my top of my head is hitting the top of the frame. There, is that better? Okay. Florida man, yeah, I didn't know what Florida man was until just like 10 years ago. I never heard the phrase. And for anybody who doesn't know, it's like the headlines from the newspaper. Florida man eats alligator. Florida man runs naked through street. Florida man robs bank with monkey on his shoulder. I mean, it's always just like crazy, crazy Florida man stories. Oh, it was a thing. It was a kick on Facebook, I think, where you'd put your birthday in. Let me see if I can do it now. Florida man, August 9th headline. Let's see what it does. Naked Florida man with machete tried to rob man of clothes. And then August 9th, 2019, Florida man drives golf cart into Walmart, attempts to run over people. Florida man allegedly hung dog from tree and beat it and then strangled. Oh, I gotta stop. Florida man steals alligator from golf course, tries teaching it a lesson. Florida man charged with stealing ventilators intended for critically ill. Florida man fired after mistaking corpse for a mannequin. Florida man drives golf cart into Walmart during liquor dispute. I wonder if that's a different Florida man golf cart Walmart story. Florida man who carried alligator into liquor store doesn't remember. Florida man accused of secretly recording young girls at Walmart. Okay, that's enough of that. Too funny. So yeah, that was like a kick where you read what Google pulls up when you put your birthday in. Florida man headlines. I did pretty good off the top of my head, huh? You always got the alligator, you always got to be naked, and other crazy stuff, right? At least you weren't wearing E. coli wick G strings for your flashing, or like freaking Britney Spears when she was flying commando, right? That was the worst. I mean, some people thought she did that on purpose. I think she was probably strung out and just didn't realize what she was doing. That's my opinion. So where was I? I think I was right here at the top of the page. The bikini pic, the beaming rotund mother to be. Yeah. Then in April 07, 14 months after Alex's birth, I went to the hospital in Sydney and had another baby boy. He had strawberry blonde hair, just as I'd had as an infant. And for all the doctor's warnings, the pediatric heart surgeon wasn't needed after all. Our new son appeared completely healthy. Relieved as we were, as well as overcome with gratitude, Robbie and I could finally focus on choosing a name. We'd been considering several, but now Robbie looked into our second son's dark blue eyes, and exclaimed, "He's a Tyler," and that was that. Isn't that cute? He's a Tyler. Tyler Shane Gouffre, who smiled for the first time when he was just a few days old, brought happiness into our hearts again. I had my hands full with 2 kids, and we were on a tight budget since Robbie was the only one working. But we more than made the best of it. After we moved back home, when Tyler was 3 months old, we got a kitten whom we named Sophie. I thought Spike would be a good name for a kitten, right? Who joined Champ in our ever-growing menagerie. We kept up our weekly outings to Featherdale National Park, where at 4 months old, Tyler pet his first koala bear. At night, I held my boys close as I read them Curious George and One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. When I needed a break, I let them watch Sesame Street and The Wiggles on TV. Tyler developed a fixation on Thomas the Tank Engine. That's a good one. At 8 months old, Tyler started crawling, and soon I was finding train tracks everywhere I went. I'd been cleaning the house when I'd stumble over a vast toy transportation hub. Boys, I'd call out to my sons, how am I supposed to vacuum around this? Oh, she sounds like such a housewife, huh? In April '08, when Tyler turned 1, I answered a prompt in his baby book. Describe a typical day like this. Not much changes around here. We eat, sleep, poop, play, and do it all over again. But there was something else I didn't write down. I was beginning to worry about my youngest boy. Something wasn't right. I just sensed it. Tyler was crying all the time. As he learned to walk, we jokingly called him the drunken master because he wobbled and fell a lot. But it wasn't funny anymore. At times, it seemed he had trouble focusing. At other times, like when he wanted to run straight into a swimming pool or attempt some other dangerous activity, I couldn't distract him from his goal no matter what I did. More than once, I'd had to jump fully clothed into bodies of water to save Tyler. My son did that when he was 2 at the YMCA in Marysville, Washington. It was so scary. The 16-year-old lifeguard saved his life because I didn't notice. I was talking to a friend of mine and he just bolted straight into the water. And I had my daughter would have been like 4. So I had both of them with me. I was talking to my friend, and then the lifeguard blew the whistle, saved the kid, and it was effing my kid. I love that lifeguard. Love that lifeguard. So when I was a lifeguard, I took it really seriously because had she not taken her training seriously, that would have been it. She didn't see him go in. She was just scanning the water the way you're trained. You're trained to scan the water and look for irregularities on the surface and underneath. And she was doing that. And then she's like, what is that? And she saved a effing life. Saved all of our lives because me and my husband and our older kid, we all probably would have effing died. Wow. Glad your son lived. Well, and he's the one who's in the Navy now. So he became a lifeguard as a teenager. He grew up knowing that story. That makes my tears happen. He was going to be an EMT, but instead he went into the Navy. He just expanded that whole water theme. But now he's going to be a medical professional in the Navy. Like a nurse practitioner, I think is his goal. He's in training right now. You know, he did the 2 year in Washington, D.C. as a ceremonial guard. He just wrapped that up and he's moved on to the more training. The bailiff executive's daughter lives in Marysville currently. Oh, how funny. My bailiff executive's daughter lives in Marysville currently. Yeah, that's where we owned our first house from 03 until 08 when we moved, or 09 when we moved to Ohio, back to Ohio. You know, like the Pretenders song. You were a lifeguard just a few years ago? I think I remember. Yeah. Yeah, I did my first lifeguard training when I was 50. So, you know, I swam every day. It was before I started doing the yoga and trying to think. I guess it was after the kickboxing. No, it was before the kickboxing because I'm 58 now. So it was like the summer of my 50th birthday. So it was 8 years ago. And then I kept it current and then I finally let it go a few years ago. Probably the last time I lifeguarded was 4 years ago. Actually, you know what? It was same time my mother died, right around then. It was shortly after my mother died, and she died March 8th of 21, I think, or is it 22? Let's see. It's okay. It doesn't matter. I don't need to do math. I'm not going to make myself do math. I'm just going to keep reading. I'm just going to go with the letters and words, right? Numbers and math are too much. Anyway, just to give you an idea of the time frame. Yes, 48th Northeast is home. Daddy helped his daughter buy. I want to say we were around that neighborhood too. How funny. By Pinewood Elementary School. I got to look. I want to say that was the name of our street. Real quick, I'm going to get back on track. I promise. Pinewood Elementary School. And that is Marysville. I'm going to look for directions, look at the map of where it is, because that was on 52nd Avenue Northeast, and it was around the corner. So let's see. Hold on. I want to say our house was 47th, 48th, or 49th Street. But let me see if this will jog my memory. Man, it's been so long. So you said 48th. That would be wild. Yeah, right around there. 48th, 49th. I'd have to look at my old address. How funny. It's been a minute. Let's see. Oh my goodness, would you stop falling, stupid phone? Gravity, you're killing me. Navy can get him lots of training. Yeah, it sure can. He's been in the Navy now for 2.5 years, ever since he graduated high school. Me and Jerry were sitting on the step in the pool, and our son was between us. He went off the step. We were talking to people, and we didn't notice. First, my poor baby almost drowned between us. Isn't that nuts? Can you imagine having to live with that? Like, OMG. I'm so glad that you didn't. I hope your son gets all that training. That's awesome. I know it is. It's really cool. Really, really cool. And thank you, Annie. It happened so fast. Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. Got to keep reading. I have a goal to read a whole bunch. And it's been 1 hour, and I might need a bathroom break soon. I'll definitely need a bathroom break soon. But where was I? The wobbling and falling a lot, straight into the swimming pool. Yeah. I think I'm going to reread a little bit. At times, it seemed he had trouble focusing. At other times, like when he wanted to run straight into a swimming pool or attempt some other dangerous activity, I couldn't distract him from his goal no matter what I did. More than once, I'd had to jump in fully clothed into bodies of water to save Tyler. Even though I had been watching him like a hawk, how many cell phones had I ruined that way? One friend recommended I put Tyler on a leash. I balked at the thought, but eventually I gave in. A leash was the only way to keep him safe. Funny, not funny. It makes me think of that Mike Meyer character from SNL that's on a leash. The one, who does the drawings. And he's on a leash with a harness. Um, let's see. Where am I? I keep rearranging shifting around in my seat. At this point, Tyler was almost completely nonverbal. He'd indicate something he wanted with his eyes or by yelling when you touched it. Someone told me it wasn't uncommon for second children to talk later than firstborns did, something about the younger one letting the other one speak for them. When Tyler began banging his head on the floor, I went in search of help. It feels like he just wants to be heard, but he can't get the words out, I said, guessing at what I thought my second son was feeling. More than one doctor brushed off my concerns, those damn doctors, treating me like a helicopter parent. But I didn't ever give up. Please, I said again and again, I just know there's something wrong. I enrolled Alex into a preschool near our home in Chester Hill. So, you know what? I just remembered. I think our address was 4918 82nd Place Northeast in Marysville. So it was between 48th and 49th Street. That's what it was. It's amazing when the memory gets jogged. Like, I couldn't even remember what street we lived on, and now all of a sudden I know all those numbers. All those numbers. Okay. I enrolled Alex in a preschool near our home in Chester Hill so I would have more time to focus on our youngest. Soon I was ferrying Tyler from speech therapy to occupational therapy, and Tyler and I became regulars as a sort of mommy and me for nonverbal kids. He'd play with other children. I'd sit with other parents, mostly moms, and trade stories about what was and wasn't working for us. Some moms swore by special gluten free diets for their kids, which I dutifully tried. Cooking a whole separate meal for Tyler was a hassle, but I was willing to do anything to make his life better. In Tyler's case, at least, special diets seemed to make no difference at all, so I eventually abandoned that. But there was nothing I wouldn't try. I took him to an alternative healer who practiced iridology, which looks for clues about a person's health by studying the irises of their eyes. We'd gotten him a helmet to protect his head, but he still got blood blisters from all the head banging. Often he awoke in the middle of the night screaming, and he was utterly dependent on pacifiers to calm him down. On one particularly hard day, another mother handed me an essay that she said helped her. It's called Welcome to Holland by Emily Pearl Kingsley. And as I read it, sitting in a parking lot with Tyler screaming in the car seat behind me, it made me laugh and cry at the same time. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. It begins. You buy a bunch of guidebooks and you make your wonderful plans. The Colosseum, the Michelangelo, David, the gondolas in Venice. You may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, the plane lands. The flight attendant comes in and says, Welcome to Holland. Holland is not what you signed up for. The essay, which Kingsley, a writer for Sesame Street, composed after her son was born with Down syndrome, explains. I'm supposed to be in Italy, you protest. All my life I've dreamed of going to Italy, but there's been a change of plans, and Holland is where you must stay, so you do. The important thing is that they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place, the essay says. It's just a different place. Holland is slower paced and less flashy than Italy, but it has windmills and tulips and Rembrandts. Sure, everyone you know is coming and going from Italy. They're all bragging about what a wonderful time they had there in Italy. And for the rest of your life, you'll say, yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I had planned. The pain of that will never, ever, ever go away because the loss of that dream is a very significant loss. But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't get to Italy, you may never be free to enjoy that very special, that very lovely thing. I didn't read that right. You may never be free to enjoy the very special, the very lovely things about Holland. This made a lot of sense to me. I had finally felt sad that Tyler's behavior as a toddler wasn't like Alex's, but that was just me torturing myself with thoughts of Italy. I loved Tyler, and he'd taken us to Holland. I resolved to embrace where my second born child actually was, not in my fantasies of where another child might have been. Dang it, Nancy's here. Sorry, I hadn't caught that yet. One sec. Lovely to see you, my dear. Um, oh no, autism. Yeah, it sounds like it. They do that. Anna, they had to be scary. Laddie's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. Jazz has said, has she said anything about seeing? Um, she did not say that she saw him on the island. Um, she mentions him probably half a dozen times in the book. And she had sued him for SA, and then she withdrew her lawsuit and said that she was confused. And there's a handful of other Epstein survivors that did the same, filed uh, lawsuits for damages against DT. He actually has paid out millions of dollars in settlements for lawsuits. I read that on one of my videos a couple months ago. Like, you can Google it. I can see if I can Google it. But yeah, he threatens everybody and makes them withdraw. Like Katie Johnson, the one that goes by Katie Johnson. Actually, I'm not going to Google that. I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to stay focused. So yeah, to answer your question, no, she doesn't say anything about seeing him on the island. She mentions him about half a dozen times, and she kind of alludes to something that is fishy. Um, Basically, when she says that her dad introduced her to him when she was 16, when she started as a towel girl at Mar-a-Lago, that her dad, who was just a maintenance man there, had made a formal introduction to the billionaire owner, which is also getting looked at his finances when he purchased Mar-a-Lago, and how there was probably mortgage fraud from the way he recorded it when he filled out all of his paperwork to run for the presidential office back for the first time around. So yeah, there's probably mortgage fraud with Mar-a-Lago because he didn't really have the money. You know, he was laundering money for his friends like Daddy Vladdy and BB. That's what that was. Jazz, says she said anything? Okay. Streets and avenues are tricky. Dang it, Nancy. Hey. So yeah, he's in a complete spin out, our dear leader. Because this stuff is coming out. It's like a freight train. He can slow it down, but he can't stop it. I mean, he's been slowing it down, but it just keeps coming. All right. Where am I here? You may never be free to enjoy that you may never be free to enjoy the very, very special, lovely things about Holland. This made a lot of sense to me. I had initially felt sad that Tyler's behavior as a toddler wasn't like Alex's, but that was just me torturing myself with thoughts of Italy. I know I'm rereading a little bit. I loved Tyler, and he'd taken us to Holland. I resolved to embrace where my second born child actually was, not my fantasies of where another child might have been. So that's right where I left off. Certainly, life didn't get easier right away. It was around that time that a cop car rear ended Robbie. And see, I'm suspicious of this too, you guys. A cop car rear ended Robbie. I think they could have been put up to that, you know, by little E, leaving him with three bulging discs. Suddenly, my husband was almost completely unable to help me with the boys. He couldn't bend over and pick up either of them without feeling excruciating pain. At times, I was so tired at the end of the day that I'd fall asleep midway through a Dr. Seuss book. One day at Robbie's parents' house, Alex was in the backyard picking figs from the tree and putting them in a bucket. I went in the house to wash my hands, but I must have dozed off on the couch for a minute because when I woke up, oh, this is terrible. um, oh, you're fine. I'm glad that you're cooking brunch, Annabise. When I woke up, he'd eaten the entire bucket of figs. Man, like a freaking monkey. I won't spell out for you exactly what that many figs can do to a 3-year old's digestive tract. You can imagine that for yourself. But the point is that I was tired. Many days, Robbie would come home from work to find one boy breastfeeding, the other in an automatic swing set that we called the Napomatic because it put our babies right to sleep. And me in the middle at my wits' end, I'd shoot my husband a death stare that said, "You're going to die a horrible death for doing this to me." Too cute. But yeah, having two kids 1 year apart, two boys a year apart would be really hard on a new mom. Someone is going to have messy pants with that many figs. Gross. Robbie kept urging me to talk to a therapist as I was still having nightmares. I had consultations with more than one doctor, but didn't feel I clicked with them. Then a terrific counselor who was helping me with Tyler pulled me aside one day. "How are you doing?" she asked. And the warm way she looked at me made tears pop into my eyes. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, you guys, and I should be as fast as possible. So, one sec. All right, I'm back. I used the bathroom further away so you wouldn't have to hear the toilet flush. Let's see. Are you guys back to? Did you take a quick bathroom break? Let's see. It's almost 2:00, and trying to get through 50 pages, but we'll see. We are only at about 10, I think. That can't be. I'm going to speed read. WTF, that speaks volumes now. I'm really questioning what happened to her. Dang it, Nancy. What is it that you're referring to, my dear? Yeah, you mean what happened to Virginia? I mean, she discloses in this book that there's a lot of people that she's protecting. And she was threatened to recant her allegations against Alan Dershowitz. And, she won't mention which prime minister it was. And she's definitely called DJT out and then retracted, and said, "Oh, I was confused." But it's like you just have to read between the lines, because it's like she wants to say it, but she has been threatened, and now she's not even alive. So make of it what you will, right? I mean, that's very, very telling. Hey, Coco. All right. I might need a Tic Tac too. I've got a little bit of a tickle in my throat. I got my coffee. It's so hard to talk with a Tic Tac, but I'll try. I might have to chew it up, but then that'll be loud for you guys. I'll try to muffle it if I do. Should have seen twins with diarrhea and Pampers. Didn't have elastic back then. I still see them dripping down legs. Oh, that's the worst. What's for brunch, Anna? I had tater tot breakfast. Get your own tots. Give me some tots. Get your own. From Napoleon Dynamite. Tater tots, sorry. Tots are good, aren't they? I like the small ones because they have like a better surface to interior ratio. Dang it, Nancy, what is your weather like? We are gray skies. Yeah, we're gray skies here too, but it's like 60 outside in Southwest Ohio. I was going to go for a walk after we get 50 pages read. Honestly, I don't even think that's Donnie. I've seen too many different, one with smoker's teeth, one with an obvious mask, and one just grossly obese. And I know it's not Melania. Dang it, Nancy. I think they both have body doubles. I think you are correct. He needs a body double right now. He looks like President Weekend at Bernie's, right? That's what we should start calling him. He looks so bad. I think I was right at the top of this page, 208. The warm way she looked at me made tears pop in my eyes. This woman, her name was Elizabeth, would prove pivotal, not just for Tyler's well-being, but for mine. She and I became close, and for the first time, I started to examine in detail the events of my childhood. Elizabeth helped me understand how extremely damaging sexual abuses for children. It wasn't just about sex, though that part of one's life was obviously impacted. And then when your kids become the same age that you were when certain things happened, it's very triggering. Um, Dang it, Nancy says, and actually, it would be stupid knowing I'll be assassination attempts, probably hiding in his bunker in a different country or with Facebook freak Zuck. Granny, I'm in Texas, so it's beautiful, and my German Shepherd is nagging at me for a walk. So here I go. I will be listening. Yeah, that's true. My son is in Texas, in San Antonio, doing his medical training. When I was losing my voice, I stopped eating anything but potatoes, chicken, and ice cream. Ice cream felt good on the throat. Well, I'm glad you didn't lose your voice. I'm glad that worked. Um, it was about how being so fundamentally betrayed often made a person feel deserving of betrayal. Through that lens, well, and also you get comfortable with it. Like that's what you're creatures of comfort. And so whatever it is that you're comfortable with, you seek to recreate. Through that lens, I began to make space for the girl whose worst experiences I'd sought to erase. All those bad things that had happened to my rational brain. My rational brain knew weren't my fault, but that my emotional brain still felt shamed about. Elizabeth also helped me examine another part of my past that filled me with guilt. When I recruited other girls to suffer as I was suffering under E, she reminded me I was caught in a system I couldn't control. I still blamed myself and probably always will. But Elizabeth was the first to tell me about the importance of self forgiveness. Around this time, Robbie made us an appointment with Petra, the woman who'd foretold our lifelong bond. He'd reconnected with her and somehow asked if we could both come see her. Driving to meet her for the first time in October of '08, I didn't know what to expect. A woman with feathers in her hair and a scarf wrapped around her head, a mystic with cloudy eyes and a whispery voice. As it turned out, when we knocked and she opened the door, I saw that Petra was just a normal looking woman in a floral skirt. She appraised me knowingly, then waved us into her modest home, indicating we should sit around her circular dining table. So, how are you? She asked, and I could hear she had some sort of Eastern European accent. We told her we were well. Our two growing sons filled our lives with happiness. She nodded and reached for a pack of cigarettes. Fishing one out, she put it in her mouth, lit it, and said in her thick accent, "So, how is your little girl?" Robbie and I looked at each other and then back at her. "What little girl?" Robbie asked, and Petra turned her gaze away, concentrating as if she were fine tuning her mental reception, then said, You will soon be pregnant with a girl." I couldn't help but smile. I hoped someday we'd have a daughter, and Petra had been right before. Um, let's see. I'm still finishing your first part while I'm doing your yoga. Oh, I love the yoga, Nancy. I'm so glad that you're doing it. I mean, it is hard. Like I've been doing that same routine almost every single day for probably about a year and a half. And it still challenges me every time. But you can do it more like at a low key level too. Like you don't have to I always push myself to do it to the to the highest level that I can do it. but you don't have to. You can do it at your easiest level and it'll still be a good workout and relaxing. I mean, that's the thing, is I can even do it when I'm tired. But I love catching the parts I can skip, just so tragic and sad. My voice is coming back. In ivermectin ate my blob, causing nasal blockage. Crazy US docs are not allowed to see the uses of the ivermectin. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. That's that thing that is like the aquar I'm not even going to say it right. The horse dewormer, right? The equestrian dewormer that people were using to recover from COVID or something. Off topic, I was arguing with somebody about the Kylie Rodney and how they believe she died in a tragic accident, knowing she damn well did not go in that trunk alone. Dang it. Dang it, Nancy, you are correct. So yeah, I think more than ever, I believe that she could be still alive and getting trafficked. I mean, especially when you think of these elite people like Zuck, like all of them. And, they all have this obsession with procreating their their eugenics and their superior genes because they think they're so smart. And not only was she beautiful, and she was super smart and super talented. So she would be your perfect eugenics gifted individual. I hope. I mean, I actually hope she's alive, but at the same time, I hope she's not getting abused like that. And I don't think she is alive. I just think it's possible. Dang it, Nancy. The body even wasn't Kylie. I know, Granny Annie. That's what I'm saying. Life insurance fraud, in my opinion. Mom owed stolen COVID cash. She did owe the stolen COVID cash. You are correct. And they were selling the lodge. But remember, they reopened it recently, too. They sent me that email. That was wild. Okay. Where am I here? Just after Tyler's second birthday, I discovered I was pregnant. I would get bigger this time, which I know many women do as they have more children. Looking back, I see that I was growing in lots of ways, stepping into my own power, both physically and mentally. I'd read that carrying a baby to term takes about the same endurance as climbing Mount Everest. Well, I'd climbed that mountain twice now and was in the midst of doing it a third time. Despite E&G's unwelcome intrusion, building my own family with Robbie and handling all the joys and struggles that came with parenthood was helping me regain my self-confidence, which is partly why I began thinking that we should move to the US. We'd spent so much time with Robbie's extended family, which I loved, but it only made me miss my brothers more. I nurtured fantasies of an extended reunion where all of our kids could get to know each other. I began to lobby Robbie. I like that, lobby Robbie. Yes, I also used penicillin on my horses, MS, and mainstream media's narrative made people die. In my opinion, 75% of deaths were with shot people. Well, I don't know. I had the I had all of the vaccines, and I'm glad that I did because I only had a touch of an illness one time, and it was like 24 hours, and it was bad. But because I was vaccinated, and it wasn't the body autopsied was taller or shorter. It was a lot shorter, right? She was, and it was a lot lighter. Well, she was about 115 pounds. Everything was tiny. And she was 5'7" or 5'8". I want to say the body was like 5'3", and I don't remember the weight. It was probably exactly 100 because everything was like exact round numbers. But maybe they didn't even weigh the whole body. They just weighed, like, the brain was 1,000. The lungs were tiny. Remember that was like 100 and 120. I think grams. I mean, size of like a 1-year-old. This chat is so hard to leave. Remember when Biden came out over 6 feet tall? They did the mannerisms and think it was Pete Davidson. That's hilarious. Then I believe Jim Carrey played him with the marking on the stairs. That is hilarious. She was in a hot car before they put her in the water. Right. Yeah. Or whoever it is that they put in the water. I don't think it was her because they didn't ID her, and that's insane. That is insane that they didn't ID her. That is absolutely absurd. It's just like Charlie Kirk, and he didn't have an autopsy, allegedly. Which you would definitely want one for the court case for pressing charges against the alleged perpetrator, the alleged assassin. You got to have all your measurements and details and everything. My guy takes boosters. We both suffered together 2 times, same symptoms. Yeah. The lobby Robbie, I think, is where I left off. And while he was skeptical at first, eventually he agreed that we could apply for tourist visas. I was so excited that I began selling what little furniture we owned to prepare for the trip. But I had to change course when our visa applications were denied. Apparently, we had to prove that we had enough money in the bank to support our 2 children during the period we were in the US, and our net worth was too low. We were staying put, at least for now. You would think with her being born an American that they wouldn't have had that trouble. That's bizarre. As expected, meanwhile, E's shadow still loomed over our lives. In 2008, I received a letter from the U.S. Department of Justice that said I was being contacted because I was an identified victim of a federal offense. There was an ongoing investigation into E, the letter said, and apparently scores of women were receiving these letters. Scores or thousands, probably hundreds, right? Sit up a little bit higher because I keep sinking. The letter included the name of a lawyer I was encouraged to contact. I thought this meant that E was finally going to be prosecuted, but that was wrong. Unbeknownst to any of his victims, a year earlier in September 2007, E had entered into a secret non-prosecution agreement with the government, which canceled a trial that had tentatively been set for January of 2008. In June of 2008, more than 2 months before I would hear from the DOJ, Epstein had made an unprecedented plea deal. As part of the deal, the government had agreed not to punish his associates and co-conspirators, both unnamed and named. A list that included Sarah Kellen, Nadia Marcinkova, and 2 assistants named Leslie Groff and Adriana Ross. Finally, in turn for his pleading guilty to 2 state charges, procuring a child for prostitution and soliciting a prostitute, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison. I only learned of the non-prosecution agreement after I contacted the lawyer. His name was Robert Josefberg. The DOJ had recommended to me. He and his daughter, Amy, who was also a lawyer, interviewed me for months. During that time, I foolishly thought they were preparing me to testify against E. Oh, there's no trial, they finally explained. The government made a deal, but there will be restitution. What you need to decide now is what's your number. I didn't want money. I wanted justice. I told that to the Josefbergs, but they said it was too late. I was outraged, an emotion I'd soon discover I shared with so many of the countless women and girls he harmed. While I'd initially been afraid to testify in public, I'd soon realized if I had to, I soon realized I had to. One sec. If I wanted to hold E accountable, it was time for me to stand up. I now knew, and once I'd made that choice, I had warmed to the idea. But the Josefbergs now said filing a civil lawsuit against E was the only avenue left open for me. So I stepped back from revealing my name to the world. Sorry to cough into your ear like that. One sec. Got a little tickle in my throat. Okay. In May '09, I filed a suit under a pseudonym, Jane Doe 102. My suit alleged that E had a sexual preference for underage minor girls and made clear that I was one of them. The filing described my first encounter with E and G and accused them of sexually assaulting, battering, exploiting, and abusing me. And I have a very itchy nose. One second. Sorry. It's like you just get that tickle. It's craziness. Of course, it only happens when you're on camera, though. You don't get a nose tickle when you're not on camera, only when you're on camera. It said I believed I'd been recruited by G from Mar-a-Lago in 1998 when I was 15 years old. I was mistaken about my age. Later, employment records obtained by attorneys of mine would show I'd begun working at the spa 1 year earlier in 1999. No, 1 year later in 1999. That's funny. Because, yeah, just all the confusion. Intentional, in my opinion. My suit said I'd been forced to satisfy E's every sexual whim, and that I was also required to be sexually exploited by defendants' adult male peers, including royalty, politicians, academians, and businessmen, and others. As a result of all this, the suit said, I had suffered and will in the future continue to suffer physical injury, mental anguish, humiliation, confusion, embarrassment, loss of educational opportunities. Sorry. Man, this tickled my throat. I might have to take a break. Um, let's see. He now sweats red onion colored sweat that doesn't come out of the sheets. That is insane. Are you sure he's not possessed or something? Vaccines are safe. Okay, another off topic, and I'm done. Does anyone know what happened to evil CJ? Tommy Jude recently died on True Crime Time. What? I have no idea. Because he was wasn't that the one who was really following Micah Miller, wasn't he the one who was given a peach by JP Miller? I want to say he was from Indiana, but I haven't watched him in a really long time. I'll check into that. Do you guys know anything that's I hope he wasn't rubbed out by JP's people. Wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to scooter to bank and gym while listening. Yeah, this tickle in my throat. I might need to wrap up and then come back later because I'm just on page 211 and I was gonna try to get to like 240, I think was what I had put in the title of the video. But maybe skip it, maybe split it into two videos because this tickle is just not going away. I can go take my walk while it's the warmest part of the day too. Let's see. Okay, Annie, they proved how ignorant they are if they believe the autopsy. I can't. Yeah, I don't believe the autopsy at all. I don't believe any of the story at all. I think the entire thing is fabricated from the ground up. Just the whole thing with calling it the Kylie party, I think says more than any of us want to know. Oh, Granny Annie says Evil CJ is still around, I think. Changed his name, Tommy Jude, RIP. Oh, Tommy Jude. He seemed like, not to sound judgmental, but if I'm thinking of the right person, he kind of sounded like he was a smoker and maybe he had lung cancer. Because if I'm thinking of the right person, he definitely seemed like he had a hard life. And I think that is the right person. What happened to Evil CJ, Tommy Jude? So I wonder what happened to Evil CJ. So are you asking about two people, Nancy? Are you asking about Evil CJ and Tommy Jude? Or you're like, what happened to Evil CJ? Tommy Jude recently died from True Crime Time. Yeah, CJ and Micah, Tommy J, Minnesota. Excuse me. Sorry. Was CJ dead? Yeah, I don't know. I was afraid he was going to die from eating a peach that JP gave him. Okay. I'm going to see how much I can read if this damn tickle will go away. As a result of all this, the suit said I had suffered and will in the future continue to suffer physical injury, mental anguish, humiliation, confusion, embarrassment, loss of educational opportunities, loss of self-esteem, loss of dignity, invasion of privacy, separation from family, and other damages. As I reread my lawsuit now, two lines stand out. Plaintiff has suffered a loss of income, a loss of the capacity to earn income in the future, and a loss of the capacity to enjoy life. These injuries are permanent in nature. In July 2009, E was released from jail after serving only 13 months. He was placed on house arrest for a period of another year. It would later be revealed that for most of his jail sentence, he'd been allowed to go on work release to the office of a nonprofit he'd newly created called the Florida Science Foundation, as delineated in a handwritten addendum to the non-prosecution agreement. He was permitted to visit this office up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, He continued to molest girls there, and after he got out of jail, he dissolved the foundation. After that, his period of house arrest was equally lax. He was allowed frequent trips to New York and getaways to his private island. No wonder he showed no signs of being chastened by his time behind bars. In late '09, he kept up his self justifying narrative in a 22-minute conversation with George Rush, a gossip columnist for the New York Daily News. Rush taped it and much later described E's spiel to Vanity Fair. It was just kind of this self preserving rationale for how he had been tormented by lawyers for these girls, whom he characterized as these pre existing prostitutes and strippers who'd already been indoctrinated into the sex world. What an effing bastard. And even if it were true, which we know that it's absolutely lies, even if it were true, his criminal behavior is still his criminal behavior. Um, Rush said you got the sense that he could adopt many masks. He played up his working class roots on Coney Island and how he understood that this was a good story that sold newspapers and how everybody hates a rich guy. He basically said, I get why this is a good story for you, but I think a better story would be how these con artist lawyers are abusing the legal system. He showed little remorse and no pity for his victims. Had anyone asked me, I could have predicted that E would remain free of remorse. I'm sure I'd sure never seen him have any, but at least I didn't have to witness his self satisfaction firsthand. My only contact with E at this point was through the lawyers. In November '09, I agreed to a confidential settlement. In the terms, my lawsuit against him would be dismissed. We would both keep the settlement secret, and E would not contact me again. And while he was not admitting that he'd violated any federal statutes, he would pay me $500,000. That was the number I'd named, and I've since been told it was far too low. I'd chosen the amount after looking at the average home prices in our neighborhood. Later, I would learn that at least one victim was paid 10 times what I was, but back then, I simply didn't know how to ask for more. Excuse me, is that so sad? Um, let's see. Was CJ deceased? I refuse and have one mask, and it says F off all over it. And that's why I'm not nursing at the moment. LOL. Everyone I know that did get sick, the arguments with family in Texas, we stand our ground. I know, but the measles are in Texas too, my dear. That's a scary one. Yes, it used to hurt me to watch Tommy Jude smoke, and he did have lung cancer that had gone to his liver. Oh, that sucks. I bet it was. He had been a musician, but he was passionate about this Idaho 4. Yeah, I know. I lost interest in that case because I think it's so much effery. I just think it's complete effery from the ground up. But that Christian nationalist Doug Wilson that popped up in the Idaho 4 case is popping up again in DC. And I think there's a lot to that. When I was deep in the Idaho 4 case, I saw that almost everybody in Idaho involved in the case had connections in DC, like serious connections in DC, you guys. It was creepy AF. Seriously, something's very, very wrong with that whole picture. Wow, Annie, that's another strange one I haven't heard. I'm looking into healthy vaccines for my dog. I don't know who Tommy, Jude, or CJ are. I work in a hospital. There's no way I wouldn't wear a mask. You don't wear one now, do you? But yeah, there was a time when you wouldn't have been allowed to work without one. I do everything to keep myself safe from microbes. Do you still wear one now? Because yeah, the scary thing in the hospital is that you're around all those like super germs if you're in a major hospital. I got to know the hospitals well in the southwest region of Ohio when my mom was so sick with her kidney failure. Lots of times. Yes, I do. Well, I'm glad that that works for you. Um, yeah, I remember getting some pretty cool masks. You know, people would make them into like art. Do you have some cool ones? I bet. Um, there are those who've criticized E's victims for entering into confidential settlements with with E because they assert that allowed him to sweep his problems under the rug. People are particularly judgmental about our receiving money from him. My response to that is anger. The DOJ, not E's victims, made the secret deal that ultimately let E off the hook in '08. Alexander Acosta is the devil. U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida approved the non prosecution agreement behind closed doors without consulting with and while actively misleading E's victims. And I think that our dear leader outed himself being involved with Acosta and being involved with the sweetheart deal by appointing Acosta to be the Secretary of Labor in I don't think it was until 2017 or 2018 in his first term. I don't think it was until 2018 that he was appointed, but it might have been like the end of 2017. And then nobody wanted to swear him in. Like there were so many problems with him, and they got him in, and then he had to resign the minute Epstein was arrested. Um, he was arrested like June or July of 2019. And within days, Alex Acosta resigned. So he'd only been in his appointed position of the Secretary of Labor for slightly over a year, I think. We still get COVID patients, right? There's like a second wave of it. I need to get my booster, and of course flu. Yeah, I got my flu booster like a week ago. Yes, Annie, I believe his son was red roamed, so understandably didn't care about his health, but very passionate with the Idaho 4. Oh, that's crazy. His son was red roamed? That's ugh, gross. That's so nuts. Um Alexander Acosta, piece of crap. Afterward, those of us whom E had abused were told that was the end of it. E wouldn't be prosecuted no matter how much we wanted him to be. We were also told that extracting money from him was the only way to punish him. Remember that it was the DOJ that connected me to a lawyer so I could sue. So it wasn't a lawyer that was really working for her, they were working for the other side. But here's the real reason I'm angry at those who judge victims who settle. All that legalese in our lawsuit about pain and suffering and mental anguish, those things are real, and getting treatment for them costs money. When I settled with E, I had little money for the I had a little money for the first time in my life. After years of scrimping, of buying secondhand furniture, driving used cars, Xeroxing baby photos instead of ordering extra prints, Robbie and I could now buy our first house. We found a brick 3-bedroom in the suburb of Glenning Valley, about 2 hours north of Sydney. E had taken what was left of my childhood, but now a tiny fraction of his immense fortune was going to ensure that my children grew up in their own home. Yeah, this tickle in my throat is terrible, you guys. I really might need to call it good right here and then try to read the rest of what I really wanted to get to. Where did I want to get to? I think I was trying to get to like 240, like the end of that Rocky Mountain High. Was I trying to get to 247? Yeah, I was trying to get to page 247, and we're only at 214. So that's still like 34 pages. I think I've only read like 16 pages. That's disappointing, because I think I might need to take a break. This tickle in my throat is just the worst. But let me see if I can just keep drinking and chewing up a few Tic Tacs, and maybe I can read a little bit more before taking a break. Yes, Tommy missed his son Joey very badly. Some thought he was drunk, but he was medicated. Tommy was. Yeah, he seemed like he partied hard, but I never got the idea that he was loaded when I was watching him. He definitely seemed like a party animal. But yeah, having a child lose their life is insane. But I think having your child's life taken by somebody is the worst. Absolutely the worst. One sec. I can't imagine and don't want to. I know. I mean, I've known a couple of people who've been rubbed out, red rummed. It's awful. It is absolutely awful. I mean, one of them is famous. One of them is that Mia Zapata. I haven't talked about her in a long time. And I didn't really know her. I barely knew her, but a lot of people that I was very tight with were very tight with her. So I know a lot from her case. And then there's at least one other person that I know who was red rummed. But then, of course, with my husband being in law enforcement, that goes with the territory. All right. 500,000 people die from the flu pneumonia a year, but not during that time. Not during COVID time? Let's see, it's 2:30. Should I try to read a little bit more? I don't think I'm going to last long because of my tickle in my throat. But let's see if I can get a little bit further. And then we'll figure out a time to come back later tonight, like maybe around 7 or 8 tonight. Okay, I'm going to shut up and listen while making chicken and dumplings. Yum! My very own princess. Chapter 23, page 214. Convinced by Petra's prediction that our third child would be a girl, I set out about decorating a nursery I'd dreamed of creating since I was a child. One wall was painted watermelon pink, and the crib was surrounded by fairies and teddy bears. Oh, so cute. In contrast to Alex and Tyler, who'd slept in borrowed bassinets and worn hand me down clothing, this baby had a mom who had the ability to splurge. Walking into a baby store near our house, I told the sales clerk I was looking for everything princess. In January of 2010, 7 days after my due date, we left Tyler and Alex with Robbie's parents and headed to the hospital so they could induce labor. The next morning at 2:54 a.m., Ellie Grace Gouffre was born. She had a lot of dark hair and bright blue eyes. When the midwife placed her in my arms, I burst into tears. My daughter was just that beautiful to me. 3 days later, we came home from the hospital, and in February, we moved into the new house we'd bought on 50 Bundesina Road. At the age of 26, I am now a homeowner and mother of three, with all of my kids under the age of 4. Ellie came into the world determined to take charge. When she got hungry or tired, she didn't cry as most babies do. She screamed. Yeah, the little ones got to make sure they get your attention when they're competing with the bigger ones, huh? That's hilarious. She screamed in a way that sounded as if she were giving orders. You've definitely taken after the Gouffre side of the gene pool, I wrote in her baby book. Aye, you're 95% Sicilian. I'm sure of it. The loudest, most headstrong baby, just like daddy. I breastfed her for 3 weeks before it was too much on top of taking care of her older brothers. But that was okay with her. From the start, she was eager to grow up. Even as an infant, it seemed she wanted to be seen as equal to her older siblings. When I put all 3 of them in the bathtub together, Alex and Tyler would help me wash Ellie's hair. She held court. She'd sit in the middle, not even half their size, and use her brother's much bigger bodies to bolster herself. But if she set her sights on a particular bath toy, they both knew better than to deny her. When we'd batted around ideas for what we'd name her, I'd read that the Greek origin of Ellie means shining light. That's cute. That fit. She was impossible to ignore. I'd been eager to have a princess, but my daughter behaved like a queen. That's funny. Not unusual nowadays because of vaccines and medicine. And Annie says, I'm here. Yay. I think I finished my coffee, right? A little more water. And I'm out of my water anyway. So, and with this tickle in my throat, I think I should just read another sentence or two and then wrap up. Let's see. At page 215. I know all parents think their babies are beauties, but Ellie really was one. She had impossibly long eyelashes and an impish smile, and as I held her in my arms, I realized I felt different becoming the mother of a girl. I adored my sons, but their births hadn't sent me on a trip down memory lane. Ellie's did. Looking at her, I could picture myself as the vulnerable girl I'd once been. I knew what could happen to Ellie because it happened to me. From the start, having a daughter changed me, awakening something fierce deep down inside. I began talking to Robbie about wanting to do more to stop powerful men like E from victimizing others. Ever since I'd met the lawyers who'd filed my civil claim against him, anger had been building inside of me. For so long, I'd try to forget, to throw my memories into the back of the garbage can in my head. I wanted to move on with my life, to move past those memories, I told Robbie. But you know what? They won't go away. And now E had gotten away with everything, and I'm pissed off. I wasn't sure what exactly one woman could do, but just as I discussed with the Josefbergs, I was now talking to Robbie more and more about my stepping forward in some public way. We knew all too well what some daughters were forced to endure. We could, we, what could we, the parents of our own daughter, do about that? I remember how Ruth Minor, my childhood mentor, had started her nonprofit, Visermos, with just one horse. Could I create something like that, but for people like me? Sometimes, after the kids were in bed, Robbie and I would whisper our fears and hopes to each other before falling asleep. Increasingly, I was feeling I needed to play a more active role in holding those who abused me accountable. Um, I'm just going to find a really good place to stop. It is so sad that she isn't going to be there protecting Ellie. I know, I know. I wish I could get a hold of her widowed husband and interview him. I was trying to look him up online to see if there was a way to like send him an email and ask him if he'd be interested. You know, either interview him on a live or interview him and then get permission to talk about it. That would be cool. Well, I was going to say if he's innocent of the domestic violence, if he's not innocent of the domestic violence, I don't think I'd want to. But whether he is or isn't, he'd probably say that he is, right? So it gets a little tricky. But yeah, I'm open to trying to send him an email or something and test the water. At the same time, I was trying to heal the rift with my father. I know that may sound counterintuitive or even insane. Yes, she was naive. She still thought, see, I learned that you couldn't have a healthy relationship with somebody who's not healthy. So, I mean, if he was willing to make amends and, admit to his crimes and do a like a sexual predator recovery program, sex offender recovery programs, they have those. But I mean, anything short of that, I don't think would even be a candidate for trying to have any type of relationship, honestly. Yes, nowadays we can't trust authorities or regular people. Well, and especially people that abuse are usually so narcissistic and they want to gaslight. So if you give them the opportunity, they'll gladly take you up on it, right? Doctors in Florida all died mysteriously. They had a cancer cure, allegedly. I worry about my granddaughter in this terrible world. Well, that's why we got to make sure things don't continue to go the direction that the Project 2025 wants them to go, in my opinion. At the very moment I was pondering how to be more assertive in taking on predators, I was reaching out to the first man who'd preyed on me. I now know that this is common for survivors of abuse to try to fix their pasts by continuing to engage with their abusers. But I didn't know that then. Excuse me. All I knew was that I wanted things to be okay with my dad and with my mom too. Just before his granddaughter turned 3 months old in March of 2010, my dad came to Australia for a second time to meet Tyler and Ellie. But this visit was rockier. Knowing my dad was good at fixing things, I suggested he and Robbie build a deck around the tiny pool in our backyard, and that kept the peace for a few days. Robbie's birthday was coming up, and I was determined to get him a small fishing boat because he'd told me how much he'd loved fishing as a kid. So I asked my dad for help picking out the right boat. So far, so good. But then dad started crossing little lines. I tended to avoid his touch, but he would come up to me in the kitchen when I was cooking and try to hold my hand or would insist on dancing with me. Robbie was seething. I wouldn't do that with my daughter, he said through gritted teeth when we were alone. I didn't defend my dad, but asked Robbie not to make a big deal of it. Then one night, my dad started showing us sexually explicit photographs on his phone. The people in the photos appeared to be adults, but the images were still disturbing. Seeing my father smirking and trying to get me to look, Robbie completely lost it. Why are you showing us naked pictures? He demanded. And when my dad got huffy, Robbie went off. I know you're an effing PDF file, and you need to get out of my house. Were it not for me standing in the middle, they would have hit each other. Robbie was screaming, and my dad was screaming back, refusing to retreat. Finally, I took a hold of my dad's arms and dragged him to the front door. Robbie, please calm down, I begged. I will get rid of him. Somehow, I got dad in the car and drove him to a lake. Oh, and then she threw him in it. Done with him, right? Anna, keep her busy. I gave MX cleaning lady puzzles and a table to keep her teen occupied. She is so smart and talented. She stays busy with school and projects. You just have to be leery of everyone. You do have to be leery of everyone, but it's always been like that. We just didn't know before, right? I mean, it's good that at least people talk about things these days. Where did I stop? Finally, oh, the lake, right? Here we go. Somehow I got my dad in the car and drove him to a lake 10 minutes from our house where I knew there were cabins for rent. Sheltered childhood with 300 Facebook mom in muumuus. No lessons on predators. I booked dad into a cabin and told him to stay put. I probably should have slammed the door behind me as I left for home, but I didn't. Instead, I promised to visit him again before his flight back to the US. I paid to change his itinerary since he was leaving before he'd planned, and of course paid for the cabin too. I guess I was still trying to prove that I was a good daughter. Even then, I needed his approval. Only after dad left did Robbie and I breathe easier. To commemorate Ellie's birth, Robbie had gotten a new tattoo on his ribs, an affirmation, he said, of the family we'd built. I'd watched him design it for months. At the top, just under his left armpit, were the words twin flame, because we were a team, he said. Two large figures, a man and a woman, embraced below, yin and yang, he explained. and they were surrounded by fire. The flames signify the intensity of our love, Robbie told me, but also the hardships that test any relationship that is based on truth. At the bottom of his rib cage, right above his waist, we'd added in beautiful script, "In love with Jenna G." Life went on. Every once in a while, I'd be reading the news or something, watching TV, when I'd stumble across a name or a face that I'd recognized. Numerous other well known men who E and G had forced me to service sexually would pop into my news feed. Almost as disorienting was when I'd see a photo in the newspaper of some other bold faced name who hadn't abused me, but whom I clearly remembered meeting. Bill Clinton would be in the news, traveling to Haiti with George W. Bush, say, to coordinate recovery efforts after a terrible earthquake. And I'd flash on the hard to believe fact that that once in what felt like a former life, I had actually met this man who'd served as commander in chief. Maybe one more paragraph, and then I'll be at the top of 219. Then we'll break. And then we'll come back around 7. It's almost 3 right now. 7:30 maybe. Does that sound good for you guys? If you want to do that, 7:30, 8. Do you have a preference? I'm thinking maybe a little bit later, like 8. I will be around, Granny Annie says. 300-pound mom. Let's see. Sheltered children with 300-pound mom in moo-moos. No lessons on predators. I'm good with it. Okay. I'm going to read one more big paragraph. Unbeknownst to me, meanwhile, a journalist named Sharon Churcher had begun trying to determine the identity of Jane Doe number 102. That's her. That's yours truly, Virginia. The pseudonym I'd used in my civil suit against E. First, she reached out to a Florida attorney named Brad Edwards, the guy that I love. I think he's fantastic, who was representing several of E's victims. Edwards had figured out my identity because my name appeared repeatedly on various pieces of evidence he'd collected. He also knew from his source that I'd been lent out for sex with others. In his 2020 book, Relentless Pursuit, My Fight for the Victims of Jeffrey E., Edwards wrote that he believed that because I'd traveled extensively with E and had been transported broadly by him, that I held the key to unlocking another level of E's depravity. He wanted to speak with me, so he passed along a few leads that he had to Churcher. If some dogged reporter was willing to take a chance traveling across the world to knock on her door, he wrote, I was happy to share what I knew. You know how hard it is for me to put this down. Let's try one more paragraph. Churcher, who worked for the British tabloid newspaper, the Daily Mail, was nothing if not dogged. First, she tracked down Tony Figueroa, who was then living in Georgia. Tony told her my father's name and where he thought my dad resided, in Florida. Her dad was a Florida man, too. My father had temporarily returned to California at this point, but Churcher eventually found him. She called and left a message, which Dad then passed on to me. Maybe one more page, get to 220. Discovering that a reporter wanted to hear my side after all this time was at once validating and terrifying. Robbie and I had been talking for months about what my role could be if I shed my anonymity and spoke out against E and G. More and more, I thought I was ready. I had done so much healing, and I thought other victims of the SA, those hurt by E and G, of course, but also by others too, might benefit from hearing what I'd experienced and how I'd survived. Also, I was furious about how small a price E and his crew were paying for what they'd done. And yet I hesitated. I'd worked so hard to build a life that wasn't tied to E and G. I was still afraid of them and the other abusers they enabled. Unsure whether I could go through with an interview, I sent Churcher an open ended email. Hi, Sharon, I wrote on February 4th, 2011. My father, Sky Roberts, informed me of your call, and I thought I'd send you my contact details so we can get in touch. Churcher called right away. From the start, she said my voice sounded shaky but determined. We were speaking off the record, and I warned her I might never switch from off to on. She said she understood, even as she kept pressing me. She asked about how I'd been recruited into E's world and probed for other details about my experience with E and G. But it was clear that she was particularly interested in which of their friends I'd been forced to have sex with. In my lawsuit, I referred to E's adult male peers, including royalty. I wonder if that would include his bestie. Because Churcher worked for a British tabloid, anything royal was catnip to her. Who who she asked was a reference to. Who she asked was that a reference to? Prince Andrew, I said. Do you have anything to back this up? She asked. I'm not sure, I replied, but I think I still have a photo of him and me together. That was all Churcher needed to hear. She booked flights from her home in New York City to Sydney. From there, she rented a car and drove 90 minutes to our front door. She said she didn't sleep during the entire 24-hour journey because she worried I wouldn't be able to find the photograph I'd mentioned. But her jet lag evaporated when I greeted her at my front door with an envelope that I'd stashed in one of our bookcases. Inside were several snapshots from my time with E and G. The photo of Prince Andrew with him with his arm around me was among them. Let's see. I talk about the crap that I've lived through, hoping that some workers get the guts to get out of a bad situation. Sharing is caring. Absolutely, Granny Annie. I think it's so important both for all of us to express ourselves and to inspire others to express themselves, that it's okay to talk about horrible things. In fact, it's good to talk about horrible things. A problem isn't really a problem if you can talk about it. It's a problem if you can't talk about it, in my opinion. Once you start talking about it, you start getting to the solution. So then it's not a problem, it's just an issue. But if you can't talk about it or won't talk about it, it's not going to transition. It's just going to continue to fester. Churcher had asked me over the phone to write down what I could remember of my time with Prince Andrew, and I gave those handwritten pages to her when she arrived. Then she and I sat outside in the backyard and began talking. I was still on the fence about whether I would give her permission to use the material I was sharing, but I figured I'd tell her what I knew. I could tell, and she could tell me what interested her most. While much of the chronology was disturbing to talk about, it felt good to lift the veil on so much that had been hidden. Churcher had brought about 40 photos of various men in E's circle, and she asked me which ones had abused me. I had always been a visual person, by which I mean that my mind attaches to images more than it does words. Being presented with these photos then felt surreal. Some of the men were utter strangers to me, but my abusers' faces I recognized instantly. As if I'd seen them yesterday, I pointed out several. Churcher acted like a friend who cared about me. I felt as if I could trust her. One On one of our days together, I remember we went to the Crown Plaza Hotel in Terrigal, where Chamber was staying, and met up with the photographer, Michael Thomas. Thank you, Annie. You have been through a lot, and I appreciate you sharing with us. I know it must be difficult. I know I appreciate all of you guys' sharing. Sharing is caring. Um, and thanks for being here, you guys. Thanks for witnessing my struggle to read this. On one of our days together, I remember we went to the Crown Plaza. Okay, I just read that, where Churcher was staying, and met up with the photographer, Michael Thomas. He took about 30 frames of the Prince Andrew photo, front and back. He also took several portraits of me posing at a nearby park. Still, however, I wasn't sure I would give my permission for the Mail to publish either my story or my likeness. I hope she didn't get backstabbed, Virginia. Oh, I know. She does, of course. But I don't think she does by this person. Robbie and I saw both pros and cons of letting the Mail run my story. It galled us how E had gotten off nearly scot-free, but we both knew our lives would change forever if I revealed that I was Jane Doe number 2. I told Churcher that I had already seen shady characters hanging around our house and that I believed E had sent them to intimidate me into staying silent. The stalkers had had the desired effect. I was scared. I didn't want to let E win, but I couldn't decide what to do. I think I'll stop right there with the being intimidated. Well, actually, let me read one last paragraph, and because then be at the top of page 222, and that's a cool number, right? Okay, last paragraph for realsies this time. Then I stumbled upon a photo of E walking in New York's Central Park with Prince Andrew. Another British tabloid, News of the World, had taken the photo after a days-long stakeout, and on February 20th, 2011, they published it for the first time under the headline, Prince Andy and the Pedo. Soon the photo is being reprinted around the world, including the former British colony where I lived, Australia. And I was, of course, revolted to see two of my abusers together out for a stroll. But mostly I was amazed that a member of the royal family would be stupid enough to appear in public with E. When G had first arranged for me to have sex with Prince Andrew in London 2001, E was still largely concealing his predilection for young girls behind closed doors or on a private island. But by 2011, everyone knew that E, though he'd gotten off with a light sentence, was a convicted Rex offender. Seeing this new photo of Prince Andrew at Epstein's side made Randy Andy seem even more arrogant to me. So I'm going to stop there. I have a bookmark around here somewhere. What did I do with it? There it is. It's the cutest bookmark. It's like a Christmas tree decoration, like an old-fashioned postcard. Is that so adorable? There. I love it. So there we are, the top of 222. And I'll look at my notes because I might have a couple of things I wanted to share with you guys. And then we'll reconvene What did we say? Around 8? Does that sound good? Oh, I know. I thought you might like it, Annabise. Huh. Tom Barrack, the military guy in Romania that was busted, that had ties to Little E. I think that's the guy that hung out with Erica Kirk. Let me see what this has to say about it. Tom Barrack and Erica Kirk. It didn't spell it right. Let me see if I can respell it for them better. Barrack. So I think he got arrested or investigated for transporting. I think he's the one who was like running a brothel in Romania. Okay, it says here that they don't have anything in common. Oh, wait. U.S. envoy Tom Barrack's troubling connection with Little E revealed. And then it does talk. This is just a yesterday. And it does talk about her. Let's see. So he was acquitted of charges, but that's also because the agency that he worked for, like the Marines, they were in charge of the investigation. So it's sus. So he's a Trump ally, Tom Barrack, 75, an old friend of Donnie's. And he's the inaugural committee chair. It's under, let's see, he was released on $250 million bail. All right. I think I'll check into it more later. Let's see what else I got here. It's funny because yeah, it's just funny. What do I want to share before I wrap up with you guys? We like the same kinds of things. I know we do, don't we? We have similar taste. So one of E's victims who's been speaking out a lot lately, her name is something like Analusa Di Girio. She was actually friends with DJT prior to becoming one of E's victims, Anuska. Let me see if I can look her up. Anuska De Giorgio. I think it got it, believe it or not. Yeah, it did get it. And maybe I'll show you a little videotape of her because I think she was the first person to speak on the steps of the in Washington D.C. Earlier this year in September at the Capitol. You know, when they came back from their summer vacation time. I think Anushka was the first one to speak, but there's a 4-minute interview piece with her that maybe I'll play that and see what it says. So E thought that T was who turned him in and got him in all the legal trouble the first time around. And E was terrified of T. In some of those emails that leaked in the last 48 hours, he mentions how not only terrified he was of T, but also that T was like the worst person he'd ever knew of on earth by far and away. And coming from a dirtbag like him, that's quite the insult. But then I think that DJT's crew tries to play all those emails off by saying that E was just obsessed with T, which is very similar to what the big E would say about G. Elon would say that G was obsessed with him and that she would find him at parties and follow him around and show up in pictures with him when clearly they're hanging out together. It's hilarious. Okay, so yeah, let's just play this little 4-minute video and then we'll sign off until later this evening. Thanks again for being here, you guys. So it's like 4 minutes long. Let's see how this goes. There's an ad, so I'm just waiting for that to be over. 2 seconds.
Help other victims. She started a foundation for abused women struggling with addiction. NBC's Stephanie Gosk sat down with her to learn more. How hard has this last year been for you?
A little bit like being in some kind of sci-fi movie.
Wait,
I found myself on many occasions.
I want to take the I want to make it so it doesn't have the closed caption. Turn that off so that you can actually see her. And then I'll make it full screen, or try to make it full screen so that you can see her.
Bursting into tears in the middle of the day.
This summer, Anushka DiGiorgio went public for the first time with her story of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged abuse in an exclusive interview with Savannah.
Jeffrey thought that we were disposable and he threw us all away. And look who's still standing.
DiGiorgio is still haunted by Epstein, even though the accused sex trafficker took his own life in prison 2 months ago. She is bracing for possible new charges against his associates.
I wonder if people understand how hard it is to see his face every time I turn on the news on my computer.
That's what I wanted to get to.
Still to this day.
Yes, always.
DiGiorgio says Epstein's abuse spanned several years, from his estate in the Virgin Islands to his homes in New York and Paris. She felt trapped, she says, at a young age, in a world she couldn't escape from. But 8 years ago, before she went public with her story, DiGiorgio channeled her experience overcoming trauma into helping others, starting a home for abused women struggling with addiction.
But Trump introduced her to E. T introduced her to E. He knew her before any of this. But also, her story is like all of the victims right now. They're so traumatized with all this bull crap in our news every day, showing up in their news feeds every day. Every time they look at their phones, they're getting triggered.
It's a whole different story when someone says, I've been through something similar and I know how you feel. I'm on the other side of that. Let me walk you through it.
The Kintsugi Foundation is a nonprofit residential sober living home. Women stay here for at least 3 months. For some, the recovery takes much longer. How did you come up with the name and what does it mean?
The name kintsugi is an ancient Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with liquid gold and silver, with the understanding that a piece is more beautiful because it had been broken.
And like every piece of art, each woman here is different from various backgrounds, states, and even countries. But what unifies them is a desire to heal, one day at a time, through art classes, music, and group therapy.
It's a community, and we're accountable to each other. And it's structured, and it's loving.
What is your emotion when someone goes through this program and succeeds?
It can only be compared to the birth of my daughter.
Aw.
It's that strong.
It's that strong. They get a new chance.
I really feel like a stranger in a strange land.
After leaving rehab, Natasha Lake needed a sober living home.
I was struggling with substance abuse. My life had become very small. It was out of my control.
Lake found the Kintsugi Foundation through word of mouth. After meeting DiGiorgio, she knew she wanted to stay.
I met Anushka, and it gave me hope that you could be strong, beautiful women having the time of your life, in sobriety.
How does it help to have someone who has lived through those struggles as well be the person who runs this place?
I mean, I can honestly say she's seen me on my darkest day. She believed in me before I could believe in myself. I trust her with my life.
What would you say are the most important lessons that you are going to take away from this home?
Everything. I love this house. And by living in this house, I love being sober. And I love the person I am today.
DiGiorgio says she gained strength from success stories like Lake's. And this last year, she has needed it. Sometimes finding herself leaning on those who she has also helped.
The women here have championed me. I'm used to being the one who is the leader, is the strong one. And I've had the opportunity to be vulnerable here and to allow myself to be helped.
Nice story, huh? And yeah, I love your last comment there, Granny Annie. Remember Tasagi, who I call Tsunami, Truth Tsunami. She was escaped from transporting and felt Kylie was. I did not know that about her, but yeah, she kicked some butt. And yeah, thanks for giving that comment to us, my dear. I didn't know that about Tasagi. So sad. Amazing though. Amazing. Yeah, there's a lot of signs and signals that Kylie was. Absolutely. Well, like that effing photograph of her in the little yellow canoe in the water all by herself from the back of her head. And the fact that the picture was taken by and for a men's magazine for an ad for the freaking Lost Trail Lodge. And then the way a narration of the ad for the Lost Trail Lodge, the way Lindsay wrote one of the narratives, it was code for the transporting. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap, you guys. I love you. I hope you have a really good afternoon, and I hope we can all reconvene at 8 o'clock. It's Friday, so we'll party together, right? Oh, dang. Today's my 4-year opiate free. I was under that umbrella of PCP prescribing opiates. I had 120 hydros, 20 milligrams of oxycodone, 50 grams micro of fentanyl patches, not counting my husband's. Wow, dang it, Nancy. Congratulations. That's freaking amazing. I'm so happy for you. That is big. That is huge. Thanks for sharing that. So yeah, if you're available and want to come back into the chat at 8, I will try my best to be as prompt as possible. And drink your water, eat your protein and produce, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. Try to get some fresh air and sunshine. That's what I'm going to do. Try to go for a walk.